I knew that I would find the team nutritionists in the dining hall. And I reckon we've got about 30 minutes before it goes crazy in here because everyone's going to come in and want feeding.
Yeah.
So thanks for finding some time to chat about what people eat on a training camp. How many calories does it take for a rider to fuel a training camp like this each day?
Yeah, like each day. It's different for every day, but we make a calculation for every training ride. Like for a 6-hour training ride, it's like 6 hours that they train, and then we see for each rider how many watts they had that day, and then we calculate everything. Like for example, for a rider with a body weight of 75 kilos, it will be around 6,000 calories that day when he rides 200 watts. So it's a lot to eat.
Yeah.
So then it's very important on the bike also that he is eating enough, because otherwise it's difficult to eat that afterwards.
Definitely, and that's probably, to put that in context, that's probably like double the amount of calories that the normal person would have to have in a day.
For me it's like 2,000 calories a day, and for them it's like 6,000. It's crazy to eat that in a day sometimes, I think.
No, we've seen the guys at the buffet in the evening, and there's often some big plates going on.
Yeah.
Interestingly as well, Lara, we've seen the riders weighing their food, so I guess that's so that they can calculate. You've given them some numbers that they need to hit, and how does that process work?
Yeah, it's true. So we make a calculation in our Sempro app, and we put a menu in their app on the phone, so they can see per meal, like for breakfast, snacks on the bike, what they need to take. So they just see, oh, it's today pasta with some broccoli and some chicken. I can take 300 grams of cooked pasta, I can weigh it, and then they can also add some pesto, for example. Like every component of the meal is set in grams, and they can also see the macronutrients, so they can see how many carbs, protein, and fats they have and calories over the day. This way they also like get used to the way of working in the races, but also the nutritional values of food, and it teaches them also what's good for them. On a race day it's more higher in carbs than on a rest day it's higher in protein, so we change the macronutrients also every day, adjusted to the training and everything.
So this is a big job for you guys on a training camp every single day, because you have, what, 36 riders, is it? And
36, I think there are 6 U23 riders here, and then all the pros are here.
Can I ask you a quick question about sort of like compliance with this? Do you find that the riders generally are on board with this concept, or do they think this is restrictive on them, or do they see this as a benefit?
The purpose is that it is a benefit, so if they feel they're restricted with it, we try to find a way that they don't feel restricted with it. But most of the riders like that they have also a say in it, so they can choose what they want, for example, for breakfast, and then we will give them some advice. If they say, I want a croissant for breakfast, then we will try to convince them that it's not the best choice, but they do really have a say in what they want. And for them it's just easy. They don't have to think about how much they need, how much they need to take. It needs to give them a rest in their head. If they feel like it gives them more pressure than rest, then we try to adjust the way of working so they also feel at ease with eating, and the purpose is to make it easier for them. So
we've been sitting eating with the riders at the meal times, and we've found that the atmosphere in here is actually really relaxed and good fun. So hydration, fluids, that's a huge part of what we do as a company. Talk to me about the kind of hydration needs for the riders, how much they would typically drink when they're riding, but also how do you manage hydration off the bike? What recommendations do you give them there?
The recommendation is around 2 liters per day without training. Like today, like sometimes it's a rest day and then they took around 2 liters. And then when it's a training ride, it depends on how long it is, but per hour it's around 500 milliliters. But when it's hotter, like they do a race in Oman, it's very hot there, it can be 1 liter or 1.5 liter. So then it's very important. Also with the hydro tablets, it's very important for some riders. We do some hydration tests together with you guys. and then we can see how many sodium they lose in their sweat, and then we can adapt everything with the hydrotabs and the sweat rate that they have. So it's a very important thing in cycling.
We saw some of the guys doing heat training and they were weighing themselves before and after these sessions. And Lara, maybe you could talk to me about the rehydration protocol, like how much do they drink? Say they've lost 2% their body weight, how much do they then drink to try and compensate?
Yeah, we always try to manage 150% of rehydration, and then depending on the concentration of their sodium loss that we had from the sweat tests, we try to add some hydrotabs or maybe just some drink mix to have some extra carbs as well for recovery. So we try to make an individual plan for everyone, for each rider, each type of training. So that's mainly the plan we make and try to individualize for everyone.
Apart from looking at body weights to look at hydration status, do you do anything with looking at sort of the urine charts or any of that kind of thing?
We always say to the riders that they need to check the color of the urine. Like on a rest day, for example, if they pee 5 times and the pee gets lighter every time, it's good. Then it means that they are rehydrating really well. But we also measured the urine for a sweat test, for example, the concentration, to see if they were really euhydrated before. Because if they start the sweat test dehydrated, the sweat test is not so reliable. So we do check it, but we most do the easy recommendation of look at your urine during the day, and if it's like almost clear, that means that you're good hydrated. So we do give the recommendation of that.
We know for sure that on the bike it's mainly carbs, it's almost exclusively carbs that the riders are taking in, apart from fluids and maybe some electrolytes, because carbs is what you're burning. But clearly, to be healthy and to stay fit and strong, you need to take in a balance of macro and micronutrients. So how do you go about working out and advising the riders on their fat and protein intake alongside the carbs?
Like for the proteins, it depends on the training, right? Like on the rest day, the proteins will be a lot higher, that they can recover very well. And it's also very important that they take proteins every 3 hours. So like in the morning, after the training, right, in the recovery shake, and then lunch, dinner, and the snacks also, there will be always proteins in it. And then for the fats, it depends also. I don't know what we can say about the fats.
Yeah, it depends also on the rider. Like if you have one of the bigger, taller riders, they burn like 8,000 calories. It's impossible to fuel with only carbs and proteins. You just have to add some nuts, some healthy fats, some avocado, some salmon. But that's mostly for like after the intensity. Like in the morning we will use some, they love peanut butter.
Yeah.
So a day without peanut butter is impossible for the riders. So I think there are like 2 pots of peanut butter that goes through here every morning.
That's incredible.
So we try to include as many as possible healthy fats. But it depends on the caloric deficit they have on the day. So it's the least important. It's important, but for us the carbs and the protein are the first things to see, and then we add the fats if needed for everyone. But yeah.
So I'm guessing when you go and visit these places like the hotel, you have to warn them about how much peanut butter they need to get in stock.
We have hotel guidelines and recommendations. We make menus. Most of the time we work with chefs. So we are in charge and we try to manage as good as possible.
You mentioned about protein, and I know there's 1 or 2 riders in the team that eat like a plant-based, not necessarily a full vegan diet, but more kind of vegetarian or plant-based diet. It's a typical question, but how do you advise them on getting the protein in?
At this moment, it's very easy. There are a lot of meat substitutes with a lot of proteins in it, like falafel, seitan, tofu. There is a lot of options, and also they took some skyr as a snack, and then the vegan protein after the training, right? So it's very easy at this point. Yeah. Like 5 years ago, it was almost impossible, in my opinion, but now it's not impossible. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, there's, I think a lot of restaurants, hotels, people, they're used to catering for people with more plant-based diets now. So it becomes easier. Good. We've talked about macronutrients. Micronutrients are also important. Obviously, if you eat a good and balanced diet, presumably you'll get a lot of that from the fruit and vegetables and whole foods that you eat. But I'm sure, given how hard the riders are pushing their bodies, they're probably taking some supplements as well. What kind of supplements are they taking, and in what kind of quantities?
Yeah, we make a different plan for every rider, also with the doctors. So they also took blood tests a couple of times a year. If they go on altitude, for example, it's also different. Travel is also a different protocol. But the main things I think are vitamin D in winter, omega-3, and iron when they go on altitude or have a deficit in their blood. And for performance, it's also beta-alanine that's used a lot. Some do creatine, bicarbonate. It's like we switch and we mix and match actually for every rider individual. So, and the doctors help also with it. So it's, yeah.
And also caffeine is a very important one in the race.
Yeah.
That's the most important one, I think, together with the other performance supplements.
Yeah.
are very important.
Probiotics is also something we use sometimes, so we really see the needs of the rider, also for the micronutrients. Yeah.
Going back to the caffeine, just really quickly there, what's the dosage recommendation that you go with?
3 milligrams per body weight. That's the minimum that they have to take. Some are higher, like in a TT, it can be higher. It can be 5 milligram per kilogram body weight, so that's a lot to take.
Yeah.
And if it's a rider who take a lot of coffee in the morning, then it's not so good, in my opinion. It's better to take it in gels in a race to have a better effect of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess it's more measurable and controlled at least
indeed,
if you do that. Yeah, no, you can see that for sure. Speaking of gels and chews and bottles of drink mix, like this is a big operation, 36 riders, 10 days of training. I believe it's over 2,000 kilometers ridden per rider. It's a big week. Like how many gels, chews, bottles will you guys be dishing out during this week?
We try to make an estimation. I think we will be around 1,400 gels and 1,400 chews. And then for the bottles, I think 1,800 bottles for, I think,
Wow, so 1,400 gels, 1,400 chews and 1,800 bottles of any drink mix just to fuel 10 days of training for the team.
Make sure the production goes on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put a call into the factory, because if that's a lot of product that you guys are going to need. How easy is it keeping on top of your own day-to-day nutrition doing this job?
Don't get me started about it. No, we try to manage as good as possible, but during race days it can be really early, and like we say, if we're in the car, we need to do some bottle feeding as well. So we try to manage, but we must say it's the riders first, and then it's us. So.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to skip a meal because it's not always possible to eat. Like for lunch, it's like sometimes chews, sometimes nothing, sometimes a protein bar. Yeah, it's not something that I do at home for sure, but at the race it's sometimes impossible to just eat. So
it's for every staff member. We all work really hard to get everything for the riders first, and then it's us. So it's kind of the motto of the team.
I wonder if that's the next marginal gain in cycling, is feeding the guys, the DS driving the cars and the coaches and things. They've all got to be mentally sharp. Maybe there's a project there for you guys.